Hello everyone, welcome back. So last lesson we have added database to our Spring Security, and we have those corresponding tables persisted into our database, right? It's just right now we don't have anything created, okay? So we can define some initialization commands so that every time when we run the application, we have some data inserted into the database, okay? So let's see how we can actually do that. It's actually pretty straightforward. Let's open our main application file and we're gonna implement a interface called command line runner. So basically this allows us to define a method called run. Okay. And basically what this does is that every time this application starts to run, it will run the content within this run method, okay? So we're gonna create a new user and define the first name as John, last name as Adams, username as J. I just want to keep it short, okay? Password as security dot security utility dot password encoder encode a password string which is just P. Oops. Let's see. What does it have? Double quote here. We don't need that. We can import the packages for user and security utility as well. And then we can set the email to jadams@gmail.com. And set user roles. And we're gonna set row ID as 1 and set name as row user and we're gonna create a new user role using user1 row1. We're gonna call the user service dot create a user user1 user rows, and we're gonna clear the row. So we haven't actually developed the user service yet, but we're gonna do that very soon. It's just we're gonna have a second user which have a different row. So we're gonna replace use Control plus F, and we're gonna find all ones here in the selected section, code section, and then we're gonna replace with 2. So replace all of them. And we have 2 here, that's good. So the user name would be let's just say all admin. Password. Well, let's just keep it simple as P. And we don't need to define user roles in this case. And this row ID would be 0. And this should be row admin. And we haven't developed the user service yet. Okay, let's do that. Let's create a new interface. User service. Alright. And we're gonna create a method called create user, which takes a user as parameter as well as a set of user roles. And we're gonna add another folder called implementation or info. We're gonna define class and we're gonna call it user service implementation info. So this would be annotated as service, and of course it's gonna implement the user service interface. And here we're gonna auto wire up user repository. Okay, and now we're gonna define a method. And this should be marked as transactional annotation because the process for this one would be transactional. So transaction management is a big topic. If you're not familiar with transacted action, basically it's just something like rollback thing. For example, you have several commands, right? You want to commit to action, and then you just commit 1, 2, 3, 4, and suddenly there's an exception throughout, and you have 4, 5, 6, 7 commands not executed. And in this case, the system needs to recover a rollback. But however, if it's not transacted action, the previous executed commands already out there in either database or other and client or third party and external end. And in this case, it will be a conflict because when the system recovers, it will start from the very beginning again. So the concept of this transacted action is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all those commands executed one by one to the end, all the way to the end, but it's not really committed, okay? So only after all those has been prepared, ready to fire, you fire up the commit, and everything will be fired in one shot. So in this case, even the exception or system down happens, either the result would be those transactions has been fired to the third party or to the database, or it hasn't. So it can roll back and start again. Okay, so transaction management is kind of like a complicated topic, but the basic idea is about making things manageable. So I'm not going to go to detail of that. We'll keep on writing the code. We're going to use the user repository. To find the corresponding user using the username. And after that, say if the user is not found, sorry, I mean the user is already found. That means the user is already up there in the database. So in this case, it won't be executed. Okay. So we haven't defined this log thing, so we can do that here. Let me move this a little bit over. Again, it will be SLF log4j, and if the user doesn't exist, we're gonna do some steps to create that user. Okay. Hold on. This parenthesis is extra. We don't need that. So come back. We have the user row. User rows. So we're gonna look through each rows that we have added, and we're gonna save that to our database. Also, we're gonna add all the user rows to the user. Okay. And one thing is that this row repository we haven't added yet, but that's okay. We're gonna do it very soon. So in this case, we have created the user. It's just we need to develop the row repository. So this would be an interface under the repository folder. Just implement CRUD repository row, and the primary key type is long. Okay. Well, actually, it's extend. Sorry, not implement. And by default, we have a couple of methods available, like save row and find all, something like that. So we don't need to define those methods in the interface. We just need to auto-wire. We have already auto-wired the user repository. We just need to wire out the row repository. And import the package. Let's come back to our main application. Here, we need to wire up the bin for user service. Okay, now let's see whether I can run it or not. Run as Spring Boot application. Okay, it's starting to run. You see some SQL statement happens here, right? And it's generated by Hibernate. If we come back to our database and refresh, come to our user, we have two new users added, right? And we have this information. And we have the row as well, user row. 1, 2, row admin and row user. Okay. As you can see, for user, the password is encoded into a string. Okay. And right now we can actually try to access our, say, the home page. Actually, let's see. We open the incognito that doesn't have any cache in it. So we're trying to access the local home page because the home page is not in the public measures that we have set up, right? It doesn't include any root path. So we have to log in this case to access the home page, and the home page doesn't have any mapping, so it will be a white label error. You can try to log in with some random credit. So it doesn't allow us to log in. We have to type in the username and password, say JNP. So there it goes. We have already successful login. Okay, that looks like our security function is working properly. So that's pretty much for this lesson. We will continue in the next one. Alright, see you guys in the next video. Bye.